Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest special edition Ghosts and Spirits video. Well, I did another little mini ghost hunt of sorts, and I'm using that in air quotes as the loosest sense, only because this time around my ghost hunt here in Austin, Texas involved visiting a location known for a very tragic circumstance back in the early 90s, and then the way that this circumstance occurred and the results from it, it is absolutely associated with regards to hauntings in other places. So when you have something very tragic happen, in this case the murder of four young girls, and it happens all pretty much one night instantly, such things seem to have some kind of hauntings. And so I'll talk about that later on, about myself visiting that location, and then you'll see some of the updated photos. So what I'm talking about here has to do with a case that to this day is still open. It's still an open case even after 2 decades or so, and the reason for it is because no one, as far as these murders, has been caught and then prosecuted, successfully prosecuted, and residing in jail. So I'll talk about that too in a minute, with regards to why it's still an open case. But at least with regards to the circumstance, I'm referring to this: the 1991 Austin Yogurt Shop murders that occurred on December 6th, 1991. They are a list, there are a murder case that is still very infamous here in Austin area. Ask anyone who's been around Austin for a long time, and they'll probably recall where they were when they first heard about this, because it was a huge, absolutely huge sensation back then. I was really young at the time, so I don't have much knowledge, firsthand at least, when it comes to this set of murders. So, but growing up later on, I heard about it, and then only just recently I finally decided to look at the location because it was nearby a place I was visiting, and you'll see some updated pictures of that location too. By the way, the location, it used to be in a TCBY. That's why it's called the Austin Yogurt Shop Murders, because TCBY is an ice cream shop of sorts, a yogurt shop of sorts. And that location there, that's where it occurred. It's near Anderson Lane and Mopac, which, if you know the Austin area, you'll know that it's up northwest Austin. So first, let's talk about the very, very tragic circumstance. Again, this occurred on December 6, 1991. These four girls that were there, Amy Ayers, Jennifer Harbison, Sarah Harbison, and then finally Eliza Thomas, they were there at that TCBY very late at night after closing. Now, I don't know, I was trying to see if I could find information why, but I don't know why they were all there 100% at once, like if one of them worked there and then maybe the others were there hanging out. But it seems like the consensus is that they were gonna do like a sleepover of sorts afterward, and that was their initial meeting place. So they were there that night, and then that's where things get mysterious. I was reading some information online, and people to this day still don't, like, there's no definitive concrete evidence of what occurred after the yogurt shop closed. But the way it's stated, and you're looking at some of the pictures of that yogurt shop too, is witnesses claim that they saw like two shifty looking men waiting after the place was closed. Apparently one of them or both of them stated they needed to use the restroom, the employee restroom, and they were allowed. The last person to have seen anything there was apparently some security officer, if I'm not mistaken. And he waited a little bit because he too saw these two shifty looking men, and then wanted to check out and see, if anything else came about. But when they didn't come afterward from behind, then he just let it go and then left. And then apparently a couple, an older couple, also saw these men there, and they were the last set of customers too. What's interesting is that none of these people that were, I guess, witnesses to this stuff, they never really, I guess, were brought forth to trial, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody, if I'm wrong on this, please correct me, but they were not brought forth to trial, and then on top of that, they still remain silent, it seems, to this day with regards to what they saw. Maybe they're just trying to let it go, or who knows. But also, but that's at least the loosest sense of information tied to that, because anything afterward is considered just pure speculation. But after that place closed, somewhere between then and then a fire, these four girls were rounded up, and then again, just truly, truly tragic, but they were all, I think, raped and then murdered execution style. And whoever did this did so, you're looking at a diagram here, near the very back of that restaurant or the yogurt shop. And when that happened, in order to ensure that there's no evidence of what occurred, that's when they decided to set the place on fire. And you're looking at some pictures now of the location, of the dates of that night when it was on fire. There was some footage of it, I believe, too, from the news channels. Nobody there knew at that time, though, because the fire was blazing, that there was four bodies in the back. But that's when, after that thing was extinguished, that's when they discovered that there was a whole other level of massacre there. So, as far as the actual suspects and what happened, I can't really talk too much about that here, only because these guys, they were eventually released, all of them. So for all intents and purposes, they're considered innocent to this day. You can find the information though online. There's plenty of it there. Four suspects were considered caught sometime in the late 90s up to the early 2000s, and when that happened, only two of them went to court, and they were apparently both found guilty two separate times, but then there was an overturn through some kind of appeals court, because I think there was considered like their rights were violated, something along those lines. And then on top of that, there was complications with regards to the investigation, where one of the suspects had a father that I guess worked in the police department in some way. And then on top of that, there was someone else that was considered, I guess, like an internal person that was having a relationship with someone else known to the suspects. So that also kind of tainted things. But in either case, after so many years, there was failure to match key evidence. I guess the idea was, from what I was reading, there was strong evidence, but not unreasonable doubt evidence. And so with that, including the idea that there was a potentially fifth person, because of the four suspects captured and then two of them went to trial, evidence apparently was presented that showcased yet another mysterious person. And so with all that being said, it seems like the Austin people, the attorneys, decided to go ahead and drop everything, because I guess it was getting too loose when it comes to presenting a conviction. And so to this day, though, the official stance from the Austin attorneys is that they had the suspects, they consider it at least, but they had to let things go because of the evidence and all the other factors that I mentioned. But to this day, there's nothing else in terms of other people that have been presented, but it is considered 100% open case. As far back as just a few years ago, there are still 5 detectives here in Austin working that case. Now, as far as myself visiting that location, I was nearby another area, and it dawned on me that I had read about these murders and about that location, and because of one specific thing. For starters, this is the picture of the place. Now, for privacy purposes, I had to hide. You'll see a lot of blacked out boxes of the location, only because I would imagine this place, it doesn't really want to state that they are home to these gruesome set of murders. But this place is still there. Like, that actual location is still there. It's a strip mall area of sorts, and when you go there, doesn't really stand out. So if you don't have any knowledge of the history associated with that location, it would just be another strip mall. But it is absolutely still there to this day, still standing. And so I can only imagine, as I was saying earlier, when it comes to things being tied to a loose way to like a haunting, I've chronicled how whenever you have a situation where there's a gruesome set of circumstances, generally there's either residual hauntings, like people seem to see something, apparitions of some sort that live their last moments, or people actually see something else, like they see a ghost or a spirit of some sort standing there or trying to communicate, something that essentially was cut short on their life, and they want other people to know about that. And in this case, there's no greater example of it because of these four young girls essentially all being brutally murdered right there in the back area of that location. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone has had any kind of haunting experiences there. I can only imagine what it's like if you go there, especially at night. Let's say you're one of the employees working there, if people still feel, hear, see anything when it comes to that stuff. And the other reason I went there to that location is because outside you're looking at this is a plaque that was set up. I don't know who set it up, but somebody placed it there, a group probably did, commemorating the four girls, and again pretty much stating that they will never be forgotten. Whatever occurred that night, even after 2 decades plus, it's still a place that people still remember. It'll be fascinating to see if something does happen later on. You hear about these things where eventually, when something is considered a cold case, the way my understanding is, detectives that get assigned on these, whenever that happens, they periodically go and then redo things. Like they start asking questions again, they start interrogating maybe people again, they start finding evidence again, start asking other questions to people that knew this kind of stuff, either to try to, I guess, see if someone will crack at that point. Maybe the guilt is tied to them and they realize, they can't continue with just lying. Who knows? But it'll be fascinating to see if later on something comes about with this particular case and if there's any kind of conviction. It almost, this case too almost took on what was it called, the murders, the one involving the three guys. There's a fascinating book about it called The Devil's Knot, and it had to do with those three guys that were convicted or considered guilty of murdering a small group of boys there in a wooded forest, but they were eventually, like, they took on a huge, I guess, following of sorts, with people stating, nope, this wasn't them. They were considered innocent only because West Memphis Street, that's right, that's what they were called. So it seems like this was such the case with these four guys, and then the two guys that went to court. There was a large list of people that were trying to make sure that they were just considered innocent, like they were dragged into this. Who knows? I'm sure there's a lot more information related to it as far as proving either their innocence or their guilt. I'm just presenting what I can here. So, but yes, it almost took on that level of infamy here in the Austin area as much as the West Memphis Street. So, anyways, if anyone has any more information related to this gruesome murder, it'd be great to hear at least any more comments. If anyone was here in Austin, especially during that time, and has a good first-hand knowledge of what it was like whenever that occurred, like from a community standpoint, that would be great to hear too. So, all right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.